What's the best response you've said to someone complaining about kids these days? Shut the frick up, George. You did coke when you were their age. To this day, I still think about that grandma at the grocery store. What a great wife. Context: I was shopping with my girlfriend. We were laughing and I accidentally bumped the old geezer's cart. He flipped the frick out with a whole rant about how horrible young people are today. His wife sat him the frick down. Get yourself a wife that sits your butt down and says, "Listen, LOL, this is great. Your generation is soft. It's all the participation trophies you were given." Sure, but who gave us those participation trophies again? I'm living in Germany and there was an old man complaining for no reason to a friend and me, saying something like, "With soldiers like you there is no war to win." My friend looked him in the eyes and said, "And with soldiers like you we lost 2 of them." My butthole uncle complaining about kids these days in front of his mother, who is 96 and still has all her sass. She responded with, "Yeah, because you were just a freaking ray of sunshine to raise." For the record, the uncle is in butthole completely of his own volition. I don't know how he turned out that way considering the wonderful woman who raised him. My grandma is the most sweet, amazing person I've ever met in my life who had 4 boys who all turned out to be mega buttholes. No clue how that happened. I work at a bookstore in a smaller retirement heavy town. So, as you can guess, we get tons of old people in every day and they all think they are the most important person in the store. One time we had this particularly bad old lady who wanted a book that we didn't have in stock yet. So, I tried to explain to her that the book came out in just shy of a couple months and if she wanted then we could pre-order it for her. She wasn't having it at all. She claimed I was lying and trying to steal her money. So, I offered to show her the other books we had by that author, which was met with a stern no and her informing me very loudly that she had read all of that author's other books and that I could find a way to get her that book today, and she wasn't leaving until she had it in her hand. I called a manager to the front who again tried to explain the situation to absolutely no positive result. Eventually she finally looked up at me behind the counter and on the other side of my manager and told me that my grandkids can order anything they want online and it's there in a couple days, but my book will take 2 months to get to my home. You're just trying to punish me for being old. She then demanded my manager send me away and that I've made her very upset. He looked her dead in the eyes and told her that he could send me away, but if she wanted this book to ever get ordered she might consider being a little nicer to the people whose job it is to get it to her. I've never seen a walker move so fast out of a store. She was gone in seconds. Tell her to have her grandkids order it then if they can get a book that isn't even in print yet. LOL. Me and 2 of my friends were sitting on a bus. It was a Friday afternoon and we were going to a concert, so each of us had a couple of beers in our hands. 3 old ladies got on the bus and told us that we should give them our seats. Since half of the seats on the bus were empty, we just told them to sit somewhere else. They sat down behind us and started crap talking really loudly about us and our generation. They said that we are lazy drunkards who are good for nothing, the usual stuff. They were ranting for a good 10 minutes until one of them said something like, "I hope when they will be this old they will know what being treated like this feels like." At this moment a 30-something guy who sat near to them stood up and said something like, "God, I'd rather kill myself at 60 so I won't become a bitter old crone like you are," then got off the bus. The old hags were speechless. My grandma said something along the lines of young people are so easily offended these days. So I reminded her that when she was born women were being arrested for wearing pants in public. My Phil is 55. Whenever he starts that why old generation is so offended by everything crap, I just casually remind him that he comes from a time when people would shut crap down if someone of a darker skin tone drank out of the same water fountain as them. A keynote speaker was basically talking crap on millennials at a corporate function I attended. My boss was like, "Wow, he really hit the nail on the head with your generation." My response was, "We didn't raise ourselves with these standards. You all brought us up this way." Actually made him pause and consider that. My employer offers courses on how to work with millennials. I'm sure it's well intentioned, but I find it incredibly out of touch and condescending. Millennials are in their 30s and they are like any other worker. I'm interested in fair compensation, reasonable working hours and benefits, not beanbag chairs and impact. Young guy on my team at work. Others were complaining about millennials. In 2018, I pointed out that them being not 38 yet also makes them millennials. I love millennials complaining about millennials, especially when they're all like, I'm not a millennial, I don't do X, Y or Z, I work for what I have, blah blah. Yet, no generalized millennial does that, and many of them do work their asses off hardcore. You guys are so spoiled nowadays. Me, looking for an apartment near me. These apartments are over $2,000 a month. Well, maybe you should be looking at a studio. This is one, with 2 other roommates. The $2,000 is just a third of the rent. Well, good luck. How much did your apartment cost? Which one? I had several when I was younger. Not my quote, but great nonetheless. Old people talk crap about this generation until they suddenly turn off their Wi-Fi and can't remember how to turn it back on. And then I'm suddenly the master of information and resources. Young people spend too much time on the computer. I had it come here, I can't open this Word file and print it. Old guy. Kids these days don't know how to save up for college the old-fashioned way through odd jobs and hard labor. My brother, I am literally mowing your lawn to save up for college. I really have no room to talk. In my day people thought mullets were cool and girls acquinated their bangs to the ceiling. Every generation thinks the next ones are the ones who are bat crap crazy. It's nice to have an aware elder in our midst. Welcome. I was on the train reading a book and older woman makes the comment, kids these days are always on their phone instead of books. I responded and told her that phones now have the ability to store books. And I told her what I was reading and then asked her what book is she reading since she was such a bookworm. She had no answer since she didn't have a book. So I said, ugh, baby boomers these days always have their nose in other people's business instead of a book. She called me rude and I told her to please refrain from speaking to me because I was in the middle of a really good book. I love this one so hard. Just remember that when we were kids we wore parachute pants, listened to A Flock of Seagulls and thought the California raisins were cool. Me responding to someone my age belittling kids of today. There was nothing wrong with listening to A Flock of Seagulls then, and isn't now. My co-worker said that millennials were lazy and entitled. She's 26. I pointed out that she was a millennial and she replied, saying I was more of a millennial than her. I'm Gen Z. More of a millennial. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. My response to whenever my parents, teachers, elders in general as adults these days, can't teach their kids a thing. Example. Say my parents use a word I've never heard of, ask them what it meant. They go for the kids these days thing and I go, yes you're right, kids don't know a thing these days. They could have known that if their parents taught them. The facts. Violent crime is down compared to when Gen Zers like me were kids. Teen pregnancy is down. If kids being whiny and disrespectful and addicted to screens is the price we have to pay for that, then yes, please, I'll have the whining. It's a lot better than being raped or murdered. Smoking rates, teen alcohol use, teen drug use, all down. They just think that there are crap tons of crimes going on because they are glued to Fox News all day. This generation has no respect. Blah blah. Spoken by a grown man with a useless son. So who raised this generation? Double quote. You were complaining about African Americans calling for equal rights when you were their age, Harold. People in nursing homes are savage. People in nursing homes are savage. They sure are. Back when my grandma was in one, I once heard a blind guy with 2 broke legs threaten to get up out of the bed, walk over and whip his roommate's butt if he didn't shut up his whining about what was on the TV. I am part of the generation after the millennials. I'm 18, so please do let me know if I'm wrong. I feel like every generation has it rough in their own way. Baby boomers were raised by a generation that lived through both world wars, a depression, etc. Millennials were raised during the Great Recession, 9/11, etc. What I'm getting at is that this whole we have it harder than you rock throwing contest is stupid. Meanwhile my generation has no idea what to do. We have one generation telling us what we do is pointless and one generation telling us that we're spoiled. I get so angry over this whole generation war. Maybe I don't have a right cause I didn't experience this. So here's what I've experienced in my life. 1. Kids are killing themselves cause they believe that what they think doesn't matter or they're too afraid to get help. 2. We're told that what we do won't matter. Don't deny it. You've seen posts about how people had a plan and then they ended up working somewhere they really didn't want to be cause they had no choice. 3. We're treated even worse than millennials and boomers cause we're just kids. 4. The hope, if any, we are given is shut down or false. I want to be an artist boomer. What kind of job is that? It's not one, that's what it is. Millennial. Don't try it. Finding jobs for it is hard and you'll end up in debt. What the frick is the point then? No wonder we all want to die. We don't have a future according to both of the generations. Maybe I'm wrong for thinking this, but I'm just one of the few that decided that ending my life would be pointless. I can't leave my brother alone, I said. Sometimes I regret not following through. Thanks for letting me rant. I'm in the same spot as you. I'm 19 and taking acting in college. I can't even begin to count the number of people who have told me that I won't get a job or that it's a pointless degree. My response is always I'm not guaranteed to get a job in any field and at least this way I will be doing what I love. Also your generation has doomed this planet. Brenda. A Gen X, 40ish, woman saw her nephew and niece watching a YouTube video of some gamer and started pointing it out to her friends. Gen X woman. Did you know kids these days watch videos of other people playing video games? Gen Xers. Laughing. Me. And what? You watch sports, don't you? Gen X woman. That is not the same thing. Me. It 100% is, though. You buy jerseys so you can pretend to be on a team that you can't qualify for so that you can cheer on teenagers playing a sport that you don't play. Plus, if I don't know if I wanna buy a $50 game, I don't have to. I can watch a playthrough and see if it's worth it. Gen X woman. That's not why they do it. Me. So what? At least if I buy the game I can play it nearly as good as the people that I watch. If I got you a football, could you kick a 40-yard field goal? I'm a Gen Zer and I hate to break it to them. Our generation watches videos of other people playing video games all the time. She was just an idiot, assuming her generation doesn't do it because she and her friends don't do it. I know, aren't children amazing? They are so much more fun than adults. Adults are so cynical and judgmental. Kids are like a breath of fresh air. They grow up too fast these days. Childhood is meant for enjoyment. Was at punk concert, swinging udders, and one of my friends, being a first generation punk like myself, says, "These young punks don't have no respect." I replied, "No respect? It's freaking punk rock, man." Everyone started laughing and we enjoyed the gig. I live in a small town, large village, and any minor crime makes for amazing debates on the local Facebook page. At one point some kid threatened another with a knife, and the whole place went mental with the world is going downhill and what is it with kids these days, etc. So I did something I'd been wanting to do for a while. I started a thread on there detailing how my granddad had been threatened by an actual gang of lads with Stanley knives and even straight razors, which should have been a clue, giving details of exactly where it happened, but crucially leaving out when. After the usual outcry of kids these days, I explained the truth. It was all true, but happened in the late 1940s and the gang in question were Teddy boys from a nearby city. My granddad died before I was born, and the pub it happened outside was demolished 25 years ago. I pointed out this is nothing new, has always happened, and if anything crime in the area is down on what it used to be. If anything, kids are becoming more moral and law-abiding. A huge amount of people agreed too, and there was an entertaining discussion about all sort of crimes and events from the past several decades that have taken place in our little town. This was on a thread in Reddit years ago now. Someone who was probably in the baby boomer generation was complaining about how kids get participation trophies for everything. Someone replied, "So who gave us the participation trophies? We didn't ask for them." I've heard people call millennials weak. I find that funny because it kind of seems to me like millennials are capable of changing with the times and keeping up with progress while older generations refuse to progress and shun anyone who has. Just because we don't have to walk in the snow 10 miles to school doesn't mean we were being capable of that. Plus, why the heck do they talk about things like that longingly? I thought millennials could change with the times, and for the most part they can, but after seeing Reddit's reaction to Fortnite and its fan base in the last year, I'd have to disagree. Whenever my peers complain about misogynist SoundCloud rap, I remind them our generation listened to Snoop Dogg declare B ain't crap but tricks and dongs. And my generation cranked up the stereo for the Stones under my thumb. Not mine. Grandma. Kids are less productive than when I was young. Kid, shut up. When you were a kid, coke had cocaine in it. Funnily enough, it was on FB, a post about millennials taking basic skills classes like cooking, sewing and laundry, etc. The post was something like, OMG millennials, how useless, ridiculous. The response was that the current generation was so proactive they seek out the skills that the previous generation failed to teach them. Hot dang. If I had the courage, I'd probably say, I bet your parents said the same about your generation, and their parents said the same about theirs. Some lady at the library was bitching about how children are using iPads too young and how they shouldn't be using technology at all cause it's bad for them. I told her that the kids that are using iPads at the age of 3 are going to be the same adults who invent the most amazing advanced technology that will change the world. And then I offered her help to send an email because she's too old to know how. LOL. Actually, heavy use of technology is shown to have serious side effects on the mental development of young children. I overheard this in a guy complaining about how kids these days think gay marriage should be allowed, and person responded, at least we weren't racist and sexist. Imagine criticizing kids for not being homophobic. While I am older, each generation develops their own rivalry with the preceding upcoming generation. Never trust anyone over 30 was such a common mantra at one time it worked its way into many sci-fi in the 60s/70s. Truth is, every younger generation feels the last generation screwed them by not giving them a pristine world, and the older generation is pissed that they are not given credit for the things that they have done to make it better. The world was fricked up when we got it. We try to make it better where we could. It will still be fricked up when you get it, and you will try to fix it in little ways, and pass a fricked up world to the generation after you. Just keep moving forward. There are less wars today than any before. There is less global poverty, and people live longer and healthier. That is nothing to scoff at. My dad's like, your generation is way too dependent on technology. Mine knows how to live with and without technology. My rebuttal? My generation knows how to use that technology. Seriously, my dad was playing solitaire on my computer and freaked out because someone said something on my mod Slack and the program popped up. He looked at me like I was an IT whiz when I closed it and 3 other programs that might interrupt his card game. Older Gen X here. Please don't blame us. We are not our parents. Also, a lot of us are computer tech literate. Some of us are industry experts. We work with millennials. My kids are 30 and 34. I sure don't give them a hard time. I am not my parents. Stop lumping us in cause we gray haired. Please? Shut up, grandpa. LOL. You're so old s. A lady was complaining to her fast food worker that she had been waiting for a while in line after being pulled up for fries. Complained that several other people behind her had gone already and she was really in a hurry because she had to pick up her daughter and had 2 kids in the car. She was so mad she stopped to say something to me, a customer who was sitting at their table minding their own business. She says, I don't usually complain, but it's supposed to be fast food, and I really need to pick up my kid. I don't understand what's taking so long. These are the same people that want 15 an hour. I shrugged and told her, well, they outsource our sweatshops now, so people here don't have to work as hard or as fast for their penny paychecks. They just have to listen to impatient people, which is arguably just as bad. We really should pay them more to put up with that. She stormed off and I went back to eating my fries. I used to work fast food and people like that woman really pee me off. She wasn't really that old, maybe mid-40s, but frick her. All I'm going to add is that I'm a Gen Zer and I'm so glad I grew up when I did. Kids these days face a ton of pressure from every direction. Being a younger person today looks exhausting. Ironhide. Why are we fighting to save the humans? They're a primitive and violent race. Optimus Prime. Were we so different? They are a young species, they have much to learn. But I've seen goodness in them. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Had my first kid in 2017. I was getting pressured by my mom to take leave from work to raise my son till he was of school age. Basically be a stay-at-home mom, which I would have loved. Telling me that it's easy, just cut back on stupid crap like video games. Both me and BF are gamers, and we could have like a house in a couple of years. I politely reminded her that when she had me and my sibs in the 80s things weren't so freaking expensive as they are now, and that as much as I'd love to stay home and be mom, it just wasn't financially possible or fair to my BF to be paying for everything. She kind of let it go at that, but every once in a while she will mention it. To those butthole boomers Gen Zers who constantly say that us youngsters are taking action against climate change to skip school, I reply, don't forget it's your generation that messed up our future. They hate it. As a Gen Zer, I am just surprised someone even remembered we exist. If I had a nickel for every time a baby boomer complained about millennials these days, I still couldn't afford to buy a house in the economy they ruined. I live in America, so my go-to is millennials have been fighting the longest war in US history on a purely voluntary basis. The fact that we stood for that is actually quite shameful. I don't know. I'm a grown butt man who recently overheard two other grown butt men seriously debating Dragon Ball Z at work the other day. Only a matter of time before people are arguing about Pokemon or some crap at 30. I'd probably be the one to say kids these days. My waifu is the best. Your waifu is trash. 30 why owe me someday. My stepbrother, Michael, started saying something along the lines of back in my day, and he got shut down by my older brother right away with a very loud dude. You're 14 inches. Were there any famous baby boomers that weren't kiddie fiddlers? To obnoxious co-worker, she huffed and didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.